So I think it's an interesting way to look at it because, ultimately power isn't really the best word, but it is this thing of who gets to kind of push and pull and how is that happening? And it has certainly traded hands over time. I think what you described to me does sound similar to consultative selling, right, and the shift towards that, or now what everyone likes to talk about, sort of challenger selling, right, which is perhaps, I think it's where the discussion in the sales process has happened. Perhaps that's moved, where before it was more in a transactional space, and it probably was sort of features, benefits, pricing, units, and now it's more around, well, there's a table stakes that says, of course, what you're selling is going to do what I need. Of course, it's going to have these things. It's going to be market competitive enough. And, I'm not going to be willing to pay a surplus to get what I think someone else can offer. But now what's that thought leadership that you bring? What's the expertise that's going to mean that I'm going to be able to do it faster and more efficiently, perhaps at a slightly lower cost, and achieve a greater outcome than if I engaged with someone else? And would you agree that that's perhaps where it's shifted to?
Yeah, definitely. I think you mentioned it a few minutes ago about the sort of technical, technology is making a big difference. And so in our sectors, we've got advances in robotics and automation. We're struggling to get people, so we're replacing people with ideas and tech. And actually, you need to understand how all of that fits together. And staying abreast of all of that is really crucial now as a seller, because actually that's the thing really the buyer wants to buy. They want to buy future certainty as well as today's price. And you have to link the two together. And that is why I think the shift is actually much more equal. So we're actually finding new ideas and new innovation, but it has to be technically acceptable to the organisation in order to do that. And it is right to challenge. It is right to put new ideas, and people are looking for that. So that's the innovation that most organisations are looking for. It is moving too fast for one organisation, the world this is, to say, I want that now, and that's going to be sustainable. They absolutely know it's not going to be sustainable for a long term. So they want flexibility as well as cost. They want innovation and ideas as well as certainty. And I think as professionals...
They want their cake and eat it too.
Always. That has never changed, has it? That's never changed. So I think what we're trying to do, this sort of challenger, consultative selling, we call it move to the left, so start earlier. Because our challenge now in a sort of professional sales capacity is recognising 60% of this decision has been made. How do you unpick that? Because our chance to create something unique is to start early. So we're now getting much more engaged at an early stage. So our cost of sale is going up. So the qualification and targeting is now the most important thing that we do, not necessarily the response to a sales process, which the buyer is trying to initiate or drive. So we're trying to get ahead of that to create something that's more visionary, more exciting as part of the journey. And I don't think any buying director, trading director is trying to take that out of the environment, because as you said, they're looking for the next idea. They're actively sourcing now for ideas. And so we're presenting ideas earlier in the cycle to try and influence a better outcome. Now that's reverting back to maybe the golf course days or something like that, which have completely gone. So this is not a world. So it's research-led, it's ideas-led, it's innovation-led, and you've got to be a leader in those fields. And back to where we started, they've got to trust your view. They've got to trust your opinion in order to change theirs.
And I think they're also looking, and curious if you found this, I know in my dealings, I find that companies are also looking for where we might be brave enough to share the risk.
Yes.
Whereas, that's not something that anyone would have really thought about before. But now it's, well, what kind of risk are you willing to share with me if I'm willing to go on this journey with you? How close of a partnership can we actually craft? And if you're willing to do that, then I'm also happy to share with you in the rewards. Do you see this as well?
Oh, I think absolutely that is the shift that we're seeing. So in our market, we've got big infrastructure and a lot of assets. Okay, so we build warehouses. 500,000 square feet is a typical large warehouse we would build. And if you think of the retail shift that's occurring, so we used to send lots of stuff out of town. Then we had this e-commerce drive, all of a sudden online was here. So anything we built previously didn't work. So we built all this e-commerce stuff. Okay. Then the out of town died, not quite, but it's dying. Convenience sat in the middle. So I want something convenient. I want it at the same price, by the way. And I want absolute
Or
choice.
less.
Yeah, I want absolute choice. So all of a sudden, the infrastructure didn't work. So the technology and our investments has enabled us to say, okay, we'll use this infrastructure like it was your own, but it's somebody else's. So we're trying to act as though all the capacity exists on the road and in the warehouses and say, look, we can use it all, but only technology and visibility unpacks that. So and actually everybody recognises that, and you can say, all right, you don't have to pay for that now. You just have to give people the return on it. So that has changed the entire dynamic. And I don't think we're done with change yet in that dynamic. So I look at the Royal Mail, a great example of a great business which is struggling to find its niche in this new world of people don't send letters anymore.
Yep.
So I see these fantastic vehicles running. It says, I'll deliver 1 billion items. I'm looking at the vehicles thinking, I bet you're only delivering 800 million now. So, you've got lots of capacity.
The ambition's out there.
Indeed. So I think everybody's changing and there's lots of things we use. We've got to tap into it. And it's the ideas, the far-sighted sort of vision of to say, how can I unlock value and give it back to a customer?
Yeah.
And it's this unlocking value. And I think the great thing is we're no longer talking about price. We always talk about price.
Yeah.
We're now talking about value.
Well, and the words you used earlier was about destiny or destination that you're going to. And I always like to talk about outcomes, achieving outcomes, and that when you achieve outcomes, you create a story. And it's actually the story that ultimately anyone's concerned with. So whether you take a medical device company that puts chips into ambulances so that when the patient arrives at the hospital, they already know what the medical condition is, right? We could sit here and say I sell Sims, or we could talk about I sell defibrillators, but actually what I sell is another Christmas with Dad.
Yes.
And that's what people want to know, because at the end of the day, everything that we do can ultimately change a life in some way. Now, certainly not always to that sort of grand magnitude, but they are all sorts of pieces and parcels of greater stories. And I think when we are able to talk about those stories and those outcomes, people want to have a conversation with us. If we want to talk about technology, it's sort of, well, everybody's got technology, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think for Wincanton's perspective, we're the market leader in health and safety. So we don't hurt people. Great thing to say.
Yeah.
And everybody benchmarks it. So every day resets itself. 20,000 people going out there, delivering stuff, picking stuff on behalf of the UK market. We want to send them all home safe.
Yeah,
so that's
fantastic.
Okay. So what we're saying now is, okay, we want to be the market leader in environmental logistics. So actually, we want to protect the future as well.
Yeah.
So actually, people look at us and say, well, you're running dirty lorries. Well, actually, we've got the cleanest fleet in the UK. So, but we're still emission, we still use diesel. So we've got a fleet of electric vehicles, because urban logistics will be fully electric, probably within 10 years, might be faster. So we've got to move with where the country wants us to move to, where the world wants us to move, and we've got to take a leadership position. So I think selling now, going back to the sort of the whole relationship, is if you've got a leadership position, you've got to live by the values that sit with it. I mean, I'm really interested in the world of Generation Z, my kids. Where are they coming from? What are they going to? What's their world of work? And so they have a conscience that is far removed from when I was 22. So they are saying, look, do these things first. I am prepared to pay more. I want convenience because I've been brought up on that. I want information because I see it every minute of every day. However, I want to buy into the values of what you're selling.
Well, I think they've definitely recognised the power of the consumer.
Yes.
Which is remarkable, since most of us adults don't seem to necessarily embrace it as well. I think we're coming close to our time, but one thing we haven't had an opportunity perhaps to hear your expertise and your passion about is this sort of professionalising of sales. We have touched on it a bit. I know it's a topic that I speak about with colleagues in terms of almost legitimising the profession in a more academic sense as well.
Yes.
And what are your thoughts around the professionalising of sales?
Yeah, I mean, definitely from me, it's a real passion, I think, in terms of learning. Can you teach something? I think that's the key thing. So we always start with a raw material that sort of fits what sales is about. You want energy and dynamism. We've talked about it. It's very research driven now. It's very being able to articulate this vision or the steps towards it. So the communication skills, the presentation skills are still very much there. So professionalizing the way we communicate and what we say and how we say it, I think, is a core of our very being. And so I'd like to make sure that we're always on that. But I think this consultative selling, the challenge to customers in a way that actually inspires customers to buy from you, is the thing that I'm most passionate about. So can we get sort of courses, material, online, whatever, and there's lots there and lots of good organisations that says, okay, well look, as you go through sales, you learn stuff. Okay, now sharpen it in a way that makes you more successful. Now learn skills that allows you to coach other people, manage other people in that area. So it's a step. Then you're managing, okay, now I want mentoring. So I can guide and shape organisations first, but then my own organisation and my own team. So I move into leadership. And for me, the destination is always leadership. So from sales professionalism, the components, sales management, the coaching, to sales leadership, the direction, I think everybody should have a set pattern and a set journey that follows that through.
Do you think that we would benefit from some type of certification, as other professional bodies have, or something of that sort, to help legitimize that journey is something more academic than just you sold the most over and over, so we just kept promoting you?
Yes.
Because I think there's certainly a perception of that, isn't there?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Look, I mean, we are a results game.
Yeah.
So let's just strip everything away. I buy my striker to score goals. So if you're the best seller, you're going to get employed. Actually, as an industry and as a body, we want professionalism because we want to be respected for what we do. And I think, an acknowledgement that a chartered standard or something like that exists for sales, I think is an essential component of tomorrow's world. And I think it's building from today. And we see the Association of Sales Professionals and others trying to move in that direction. So I think that's a good thing. I was president of the world's largest institute in logistics. And we are the leading chartered profession in logistics. And I think everybody respects it because of the qualifications, the academic qualifications that we bring. But let's just recognise that good professionalism should be recognised as well. And you can learn without academic qualifications and you can perform at the same level. And so that experience, alongside qualifications and continuing development, because it's research and scientific and process driven and knowledge acquired, we have to make sure we can actually compare the two and say, yes, this is a qualified or certified professional. And I think it's absolutely essential that we head in that direction. Otherwise, others will take our role from us.
Well, there's a whole different discussion, isn't there, around artificial intelligence and the role of the salesperson, but that's for a conversation for another day. So if you had a few last pearls of wisdom to leave our audience with around sort of the buyer-seller relationship and what to be mindful of as they move forward into the next few years with the pace of change and the economy and all the fun joys that we get to have.
Pearls of wisdom, thank you for that. Yeah,
pearls of wisdom.
So I think it's definitely around understand how you build trust. Understand how you're going to add value in that environment. You've got to add some value by bringing knowledge first and bringing expertise to any relationship. People will trust you because of your expertise. You have to operate with integrity, and we take that without saying. But I think, look at the destination. Where are you trying to end up with this relationship? What's the first step and what are continuing steps? And actually build a plan that will deliver those, and never forget that and stick with it. Be flexible, bring new ideas, but keep to your plan would be my pearl of wisdom, I think.
Perfect. Thanks so much for your time today. I've learned a tremendous amount and really appreciate and enjoyed your passion for the topic. So
Pleasure. Thanks
again.
very much. Thanks.
Cheers.